So welcome to ProfileTree TV, and today we're very excited to be talking to Ray, and we're going to talk about sales and everything else. So Ray, thank you very much for taking time out to talk to us today.
Yeah, no, it's great, and thanks for the opportunity. I've seen some of your other work, and I think it's a great way of giving some information and maybe some insights into different aspects of the working life. So well done all at ProfileTree.
Oh, no, thank you very much. No, it has been incredible, and diving into people's stories, and it's so interesting finding out how someone's went from their start to where they are today, and the journey, and getting a little bit of what they've learned on the road, which is the advice and insight is incredible. So again, thank you for taking time out to share yours with us today. I really appreciate it. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I've been in sales pretty much all my working life for over 30 years, and I love it. I'm very passionate about it, and I've had the fortune to work with some amazing organizations during my formative years in sales. And I suppose the bigger companies that I worked for, I did 6 years with FedEx, 4 years based in Ireland, 2 years in a global sales role. And the global sales role was fascinating because I visited something like 22 different countries during that time. And I was doing, presentations, and I was meeting clients. I was actually account manager for the Intel account and the Hewlett-Packard account in EMEA, and was all part of a global team. And they always say, well, when you're managing a team, you try and meet somewhere central. We used to have team meetings in Alaska, because it was the most central place, and FedEx had a hub there in Alaska, so I could fly on the FedEx planes straight to where we were going. And so I had a few wonderful years with those guys. I then went into sales management at British Telecom, and again, I learned so much from those guys. They were fantastic. I had 5 great years. I suppose I was attracted to a new industry, and I wanted to see, what could I apply to a new industry from the freight industry to the IT industry. And I suppose very quickly I sort of found out, well, actually, the freight industry and the IT industry are quite similar, because in freight we're moving physical packets around a physical network. In IT we're moving virtual packets of information around a network. So it was just understanding the network. And then I got a really good offer to go back into freight from DHL. And I was country manager. I had about 50, 60 people working for me. And during that time, I decided to go back to college, believe it or not. And I got a degree in sales coaching. 12 years ago, I made the big move and with the support of my wonderful partner, Mary, she was very keen for me to go out on my own. And I went out on my own in 2008. And I've worked with a number of very large organizations, and then I've worked with a number of SMEs, and I get a kick out of no matter how big or small the company is. And also I tend to work with my clients for a long period of time. For example, with Google, I did 2 years with Google, not exclusively. I was working with other clients at the time, but I might be dipping in and out 2 days a week, or maybe an average of 8 days a month. And again, with Google, they gave me the opportunity. I created a worldwide program for them in terms of selling over the phone. And the thing they liked about me from the outset was my grey hair, the experience I could bring to the table. And with Google, again, it was an opportunity to travel. I did some training programs for them all over Europe, obviously in Dublin. I went to their headquarters in San Francisco. I delivered training there, and I delivered training in Asia for them in Singapore. And again, it was very interesting, because I remember one time in Amsterdam, I had 30 people in the training program, and they were from 29 different countries. And you really had to temper the way you presented, and you had to be very cognizant of any language that they may not understand in terms of a phrase or a saying, or even body language was very important when you were presenting. And the thing about Google was great, because you got a rating after every course. And if your rating dropped below 75%, it was adios amigos, right? But the good thing, I averaged over 90% satisfaction, which was great. So Google was a great account. I also did 2 years with permanent TSB in the Republic. Basically delivered a program for their frontline managers and their assistant managers, and that was 2 years. It was great fun again, and that they were very good to work with. And I did 5 years with the Continental Group, so I know a lot about tires. And again, I try and stay involved in organizations. And when I was with the Continental Group, I used to go out in the field with the salespeople, and most of the time I was out with the guys selling car tires. And one day I planned a day trip with someone who was selling truck tires. So I went to the warehouse and I said to the guy, the warehouse manager, "Can you tell me a little bit, what's the difference between, selling a truck tire and selling a car tire?" And he said, "The truck tires are bigger." That was wonderful. Because it sort of just got me thinking, actually, yeah, it's all about sales, and it's all about sales processes. And I've done some work with, I've got a big footprint in the insurance space, did a lot of work with Zurich. Then I've worked with 4 or 5 large brokers in Ireland. And then last year I worked with the largest broker in Europe, JLT. And again, I learned an awful lot. Those guys, the insurance space is a very interesting space. So, and recently I've teamed up with a company called Iconic, who deploy software that enables structured conversations to take place, and it's all managed remotely, and it helps line managers become better coaches. So, and then I've worked with a lot of SMEs. It's been great fun because, I've worked with SME in Midlands. They would have been turnover 10 or 11 million, but a family business since 1906. So you can imagine how much I learned and how much I continue to learn. So every day really for me is an interesting day, because I could be working, as I said, with a tire company, with Google. I also did a couple of years with an advertising agency, which was really very interesting. They live a different type of world. Yeah, I sort of try and take as much as I can from every experience and enjoy it.
Incredible. No, it sounds amazing. And one thing that really jumped out there is that you're saying that you're learning all the time. So learning is a big element of this.
Yeah, 100%. Because the thing is, for me, I'm very, very conscious of being contemporary. And even though I've been selling since the 80s, if I'm in a classroom or if I'm talking to an organization, they're interested in selling today. What are the trends today? There's certain things that haven't changed in my experience. I think the one thing that hasn't really changed is a good organization must have a sales process or a hymn sheet. They need to be all seen, not robotically, but they need structure. And most people like structure. Most salespeople like structure. Or customer care. I do a lot of work with call centers and customer care organizations, where the quality of the conversation really is based on not just what we say, but how we say it. And I think that's really important. And I suppose a lot of the time before I start working with a client, I'll spend a fair bit of time just observing what's going on. I'll sit with somebody, or I'll go out in the field with the salespeople. I'll say, "Come on, let's do a few sales calls." And before I ask them, tell me about what you say when you're out in front of a client. Tell me what you do. What's your expectation? And even prior to that, I'll talk to the other stakeholders. I'll say to the CEO, or I'll talk to the sales directors, and I'll say, "What do your salespeople say when they're in front of customers? What's the most valuable conversation do they execute when they're out in the field?" And they might tell me something, and then the sales rep will tell me, "This is what I generally say." And then when out in the field, it can be very different, because they don't have that. This is what we say, and this is how we say it. Not, as I said, I don't believe in a script, but I certainly believe in a structure. There should be, everything is like a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Incredible, very interesting. And you have a company then called SalesSource. Yeah,
SalesSource has been running for about 12 years, and as I said, they're the people that I've worked with, and the things that I give, what the products are, the things that I like to work with clients would be on creating a sales process, and again, you'd be surprised the amount of very large organizations who don't have a sales process, or it's very different depending on what team you might be working in. So, I'm looking for, so tell me what's being said, how is it being said, what are the staging posts in your process? So we talk about the conversation, but then we also talk about, when I go into lots of organizations, and we talk about pipeline, and we talk about forecasting, you know, really fundamental key components of any successful organization. And people get a bit confused about the pipeline, and they get very confused about prospecting. And, you know, so I say, what's your pipeline? What's your forecast? How are you going to increase your business by the number of points that you want to increase your business by? Show me your pipeline. Show me the stages. There's invariably 5, 6, 7, 8 stages to anyone's pipeline. And salespeople, and I always say to the salespeople, a pipeline is all about movement. Moving your pipeline from suspecting to prospecting to proposal to hopefully then either you get the business or you don't get the business, and you move on. And you need to have a what I would say, I always say to people, when was the last time you did a sanity check on your pipeline? Because a lot of salespeople love their pipeline, but they don't like to say, oh, I lost that boss, you know? I think that's really important that you measure your pipeline. So I sort of do sales processes, I do pipeline management, I do time management pieces. And again, I think time management is a really important thing. I say to people, what does the number 168 mean to you in regards to time? Very few people sort of give me the right answer. And I say, time is one of the most fairest and equitable things everyone has. Because from the poorest person in the world to the wealthiest person in the world, we're all given 168 hours a week. And it's up to us to determine, how do we use that? You know, and one of the podcasts I did recently with my son, Ryan, was on mindfulness and, you know, being in the moment. And I think the one thing that the working from home, I think, is focusing on, people could be more productive working from home because maybe they're more concentrated and they've less distractions. So I do time management. That's a really fun piece. I really enjoy that. And then I also work on campaigns. How can I help a company bring in new business? So we talk about, we do a workshop on what does your bullseye customer look like? So tell me about your bullseye customers. Who are they? And then I say, okay, could we write a list of 50 or 500 or 5,000 customers that are out there that we could go after? And it's almost like the reverse of Google and the money people spend on Google. People go out to the marketplace, spend a lot of money on Google, and hope potential customers find them. And I say to my clients, why don't you find your potential customers? And that's what I do with the campaign management, bullseye customers, and proactively contacting clients or potential clients. And I remember working with this advertising agency. They were looking for new business. They asked me to come in, and they specifically wanted to get new business. So we came up with this campaign, and the advertising agency were really good at creating very innovative communication pieces. Like they would send a little letter about Steve Jobs and pizza and stuff like that. And then we would follow up with a phone call. So I said, look, let me make a few phone calls because I want to see what reaction we're getting out in the field. And I rang this particular MD of an organization. It took me 2 or 3 times to get through. And that's another part of the sales process, is you've got to be resilient. I don't believe in being pushy at all, but sometimes salespeople give up after the first phone call. So, you know, I always say, look, maybe give it 3 phone calls and then maybe park it for a while and then go back to it eventually. But I got through to the guy on the 3rd phone call. And I said, did you get the letter? Do you remember getting a letter we sent you recently? He said, yeah, I got the letter, he said, and it was the worst letter I ever got. And I said, well, that's okay, Tom. I said, because it was just really there to grab your attention. And he said, well, it didn't get my attention. And then he just burst out laughing because he thought it was the best thing he ever got. And the company that I work for ended up getting a lot of business from him. So, you know, and also I think sending out a physical letter sometimes is really different. Like this week or last week, Ciaran, how many letters came through your letterbox in relation to your business?
Gosh, in business, yeah, probably. Oh, actually, bills. No, I'm thinking probably 1 or 2. Yeah, just 1 or 2. Yeah.
How many emails did you get?
Oh my gosh, you'd say 100 or 150 a day. Yeah.
So I mean, the first sales process that was ever outlined was from 1912. And it was called AIDA. And it's still very relevant today. And if anyone wants to watch a movie tonight about sales, I'd recommend Glenn Ross, right? Now, the language is pretty profane, so if you're sensitive, don't watch it. But the Alec Baldwin character talks about AIDA. And the first thing about sales is, have you got their attention? Because if you don't have their attention, you're not going to go anywhere really. So attention, interest, desire, action. And that's sales process really has changed very slightly since 1912. It's got more maybe sophisticated and there's more nuances in it. But if you think about your day and when you're talking to clients or when you're emailing clients, AIDA is a pretty good way to have in the back of your head. Is this going to be interesting to if I send something to a client via email, how do I grab their attention and is it of interest to them? And I think the other thing that salespeople sometimes forget, the customer owes you nothing. You know, you've got to make it interesting for your potential customer. So for me, what I do is, I generally go into organizations, definitively improve sales, every single place I've worked, and improve the customer experience. So that's really what I would be all about.
Incredible. And as you're talking there, I'm realizing that there's plenty of holes in our process. So you've given, I'm sure, a lot of people watching this a lot of things to think about. So thank you for that. And you've worked with all different types of businesses. Then you've mentioned agencies and major international and loads of different industries. So all big, small, all different types.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I've been doing that for 12 years, but even in my career, some organizations had very, very good processes. And they had, with FedEx, for example, I think I did 6 weeks training with them before I got out in front of a customer. So they were very good. In fact, they wanted me to go to Memphis and become one of their trainers, but I didn't want to go. We were just starting a family, and my wife is a bit of a home bird, and we love Ireland. But yeah, FedEx were great. They had a great structure, and that's why they're a good organization. But yeah, the sales process really is there's lots of commonalities no matter what industry. And I've worked with lots of industries, and the first thing maybe the CEO or the sales director might say to me, oh, our industry is very different to any other industry. And after a while, when I do the observation and I give them some feedback, maybe after, a week or two being embedded in their organization, the feedback generally is very similar in terms of my findings. In every sales team or every sales group of salespeople, there's always a couple of superstars. And then there's always a couple of people who aren't performing. Yet they work with the same manager. So how does that work? And they always say, oh, if I could bottle what Mary has or what Johnny has, we'd be fine. And I say, well, what do they do? And they say, we're not too sure, but they get the numbers in. And sometimes those sales geniuses are disasters because they upset everyone else in the organization because they don't have a process, but they get the sales through their pure personality. And then people say to me all the time, well, are good salespeople born? I'll say, yeah, because everyone's born. But what I say to them, no, good salespeople have a process. Good salespeople work hard. Good salespeople manage a pipeline. And good salespeople build honest relationships with their customers. That's what good salespeople do.
Wow. And have you found that many small businesses don't have effective sales processes in place? I know there's sales processes and things that we all do, but in general, would you say that there's room for improvement in most businesses?
I'd say there's a lot of, and I think particularly startups. I think a lot of startups, to work with startups really is and they're brilliant, and I love startups. It's very exciting and it's very dynamic, and these people have amazing ideas and great value to add. But it's a little bit like, I'm going to build this and they will come. And I say, well, what if they don't come? How are you going to get your message out there? It's like, you're going to have a great product, but no one knows about it. Or again, go back to it. Tell me, write down 10 customers you believe would be your ideal customer. And then they write them down and say, so what are you going to do about it? Oh, I'm going to spend a lot of money on Google, and hopefully one of those 10 people will ring me. I said, well, that may or may not work. And, I often, as I said, I do a lot of work in insurance, and every day we hear on the radio or on the newspapers or on the TV or on online, digital, your car insurance or house insurance. And I'm saying to myself, that ad is irrelevant to probably 80, 90% of the people. Because when do you think of your car insurance, Ciaran?
Once a year when you get a letter from them saying it's up.
Once a year, exactly, yes. So again, there's ways of, and I've had great success in one particular organization. You know, we had a 400% increase in sales with the same number of people, purely by asking at the end of the conversation, tell me, Ciaran, when is your household insurance up for renewal?
Exactly, yeah.
Ciaran would say, oh, actually, it's up in July. Well, Ciaran, would you mind if I gave you a quick call in July? Yeah, of course I will. And then, do you follow up in July? Do you ring Ciaran in July? And you say to Ciaran, hiya, Ciaran, it's Ray here from your friendly insurance company. I said I'd give you a quick call. And then you might be thinking, these guys are pretty sharp. And we might have your attention. But that's a small thing. So yeah, I would say it's not a huge, it's not as big enough focus as it should be, both in customer care and in sales. And I think today, with the current environment where people aren't being able to get out and meet customers, and they may be ringing people. I mean, even this conversation here is, we don't maybe have body language anymore because of the screen. And when you're in face-to-face with an individual, 55% of your communication is through your body language. 37% is through what your tone of voice. And only 8% is through what you actually say. And how many times do salespeople, are even when it's over the phone, it's 80% is through your tone of voice. And I mean, you know, how many times, Ciaran, you have a conversation with someone over the phone, and after a few minutes, maybe they're strangers to you, but after a few minutes, you build a picture of what they look like.
Every time.
Every time. And that's purely based on their tone of voice. And yet, some people talk in a very low voice that puts you off maybe from doing business with them. And I'm not talking about, hi, you know, I'm Guy Smiley. There's a nice there's somewhere in the middle, show interest. And that's why the structure of a call, if someone knows this is what you need to be saying, it actually empowers them. It unleashes their personality. And the thing as well, sometimes people, when they're asking for referrals and say, so when is your household insurance up? Or your partner, does she have insurance? Sometimes they're afraid of the yes. They're afraid for you to say, oh yeah, my household is up for next week. That's great. Because they just want they might want you to get you off the phone. And just next, please. Do you know that type of way?
Amazing. So you see a real benefit then in going into a business and coaching them on sales and looking at the processes and giving them some direction?
Yeah, well, I mean, coaching, I mean, the first thing you've got to get right, first of all, is, are the salespeople being managed properly? You know, it's a big quantum leap to go, because I do work with managers who want to be more effective in regards to coaching. And the first question I ask a manager is, what percentage of your time do you spend out in the field with your salespeople? Oh, I'm very busy. I would spend probably 15%. And they'll say, what amount of time should I spend out in the field? And I say, you should be out in the field 75%. Because that's where it happens. Because all the great, if you go to sport, or you go to music, or you go to drama, all these professions welcome coaches. But the coach doesn't, like Alex Ferguson, when he was a manager or coach of Manchester United, he didn't say, okay, good luck tomorrow, and I'll see you on Monday, and let me know how you get on. He will watch the match with them, or Joe Schmidt, our very successful rugby coach. He didn't get everything right, but he got a lot of things right, and we did do things we'd never done before. And, you know, he always used to say at the end of the match, no matter win, lose or draw, he'd say, we'll have a look at it over the weekend, we'll get together on Monday, and we'll go through it. And that's what coaching is very fundamental practice, because what coaching really is all about is maybe looking at one thing at a time. You know, so if you're a manager and you're going out in the field with your salesperson, a lot of managers have a tendency to jump in during the sales call. And the other thing that we got to always remember, most managers get promoted to management because they're good salespeople. Now, unless the fairy godmother comes along and sprinkles gold dust in their hair on Friday when they stop being a salesperson, and then they're a sales manager on Monday, there's fundamental differences between the attributes that make up a good salesperson and the attributes that make up a good manager or a good coach. With all due respect to Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger or Jose Mourinho or Tiger Woods, most of Tiger Woods coaches, they were never very effective in their own sport playing it, but they were able to be a good coach. So they were able to observe things and say, I've looked at these aspects of your performance and I'd like you just to work on one thing. And the one thing might be every time the ball is on the right-hand side, I want you to hit the center, the spot on the penalty spot. And the ball will come in there once. And if the guy does that run time in, time out, he might make that run 10, 15 times and the ball doesn't come in. Make the run on 16 times, the ball's there and it's in the back of the net. And the same way with rugby, the people who work on the wide, I think the number 15 or whatever, he would never see the ball from the first minute to the 78th minute. But if he gets the ball on the 79th, he knows what he has to do. Because one thing I like about rugby is the set pieces. It's all structure. And our American football, you know, they pretty much know now they have a plan A and sometimes they have a plan B and a plan C to execute the play. But then when I go back into the sales world or the business world and I talk, so what's your game plan? Where show me the hymn sheet that you should all be singing from. Where is the consistency? What should we be doing right all the time? And not because sometimes I hear I normally do that, but I didn't think it was appropriate at that particular time. It's either the right thing to do. I like to live in a black and white world. It's the right thing to do all the time, or it's not the right thing to do.
And you see customer service processes then in businesses, how customer service is delivered and followed up on this. You think that needs improved, or we're pretty good at that in Ireland?
Well, I think, no, I think I also do a bit of work with some big retailers. And again, the experience of going into a retail, now, again, the world is changing in that space. But customer services is all about listening to your client, listening to your customer, being empathetic, solving any problems that they may have. And then ask them, is there anything else I can do for you? Or if they bought something from you, if they bought a tire or 5 tires or 10 tires, when they've transacted that, say, when do you think you'd like some more tires, Mr. Customer? Like maybe more tires, if they're a retailer, might need more tires next week. Is it okay if I give you a call? I know you're busy there. Is it okay if I call you 2 o'clock next Tuesday? Oh yeah, that's great. Then you dial the call and say, hi, it's Ray here from Tire Company. I sent you a quick call. How did those tires go for you from last week? And that, you see, because what we have to try and do in customer services or in retail, we got to try and move from a transactional sale to a sale that's built on relationships. If you go into your local store, right? And say you have an 8-year-old child, have you?
Yes.
Yeah, boy or a girl?
Boy.
Boy, okay. So does he support a football club or anything yet, or does he play sport?
Yeah, football, yeah. Liverpool. Liverpool more. Okay. Yeah, enough said.
you go into to buy him a new Liverpool jersey, right? And you hand it over to the sales assistant. Chances are he'll just take the Liverpool jersey, put it in the bag, and say, that's 45 quid. Thank you very much. What he should be doing is, so who's the jersey for? And you say, oh, it's me, young fella. Oh, what does he think of Liverpool? Oh, he loves Liverpool. Great, okay. Just before you go, today, actually, if you buy the top, you can buy the shorts for £12. It's a special offer. You might say, no, you're fine. But you might say, yeah, actually, I will do that. I'll buy that. That's great. And what about the socks? And a £45 sale maybe into a £60 or £70 sale. Because you'll go out that door, that money can't be retrieved. And the thing is, if you have a good experience in that store, what are you likely to do?
Oh, you go back and you tell your friends as well.
You're likely to go back and you're likely to recommend them. And it's almost what I always tell when I work with retailers, I always say to retailers, try and imagine if every person coming into your store had a lifetime value imprinted on their forehead. And one customer comes in and he's got 20,000 sterling or euros on his forehead. How would you treat them? Oh, like a king. Well, why not treat everyone like a king? and that's good customer care. And I don't encourage people being insincere. I encourage people to be very sincere about what they do. And one of the organizations I think are great at upselling is McDonald's, or Burger King, or Circle K. Where you go into Circle K and you fill up, I do a lot of driving, so I fill up my car and 70 euros worth of fuel. And the petrol station might be making 10% on that, so they make €7. And then the person at the counter says to me, would you like a car wash? And the car wash might be €12. And they make an extra, they probably make more money on the car wash than they do on my fuel. And it's like, it's like when you're at McDonald's, would you like a large meal with that? And think of the additional revenue that those questions will drive into the overall turnover of the organization by just asking a question with confidence. I think, in retail, when I walk into a retail shop, all I want really is eye contact and a smile. And then for someone to say to me, if you need anything, I'm over there. Because what happens when you go into a lot of retailers, what's the first thing someone says to you? Do you walk into a shop?
Oh, yeah, is there anything I can help you with? Well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, they jump on you. And what do you say?
No, I'm okay. I'm fine. Just browsing, just looking.
I'm just looking. So constantly what you're saying to yourself, I can't wait to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
That's not feel intimidated. Whereas the good retailers that I've worked with, they will say, eye contact, smile, and if you need anything, I'm over here. And very simple things to do, but a lot of people in retail are task driven, and they do stuff. They love to do things. Like they love to move a set of jerseys from the left-hand side of the store to the right-hand side of the store. And don't get in their way, because you're only a customer. They're doing stuff, right?
Amazing. You got me thinking now of all these things. I'm thinking of the experiences that I used to have, as you say, going into restaurants and shops, and then you go into restaurants, it's a difference. You want to be looked after straight away. So it's amazing the differences.
It is, and I did work with a chain of hotels as well, and great fun with them. They're a lovely worldwide organization, great people to work with. And the thing about the hotel space, or when you're in a pub, I do a lot of traveling as they go to a hotel or go to a pub for lunch, and I often say to the server, what's the soup of the day? And a lot of the time, the server says to me, I'd have to check. And I said, well, because I think if I was the server, the first thing I do when I present myself to work would be go to the chef. What's the soup of the day? And how do you make it? What's it served with? So someone says to me, "What's the soup of the day?" Oh, it's a beautiful blended vegetable soup. It's served with country or homemade brown bread with real butter. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, just I'll have that. But then when I think about it, is it the server's fault, or is it the manager's fault, or is it the chef's fault? And generally what happens, the reason there's a fault is there's no process. So it all falls down on process. So if the process in a business is the serving staff come in, the first thing they need to do, talk to the chef, talk to the manager. The manager has a little pep talk and says, okay, we've got some really good specials today. We've got a beautiful bit of a bit of cod, or we've got a lovely bit of steak, and they're very, very good value. And also we've paired a glass of red wine with that particular meal, or we paired a glass of white wine with that particular meal. And you might spend, 9 or 10 euros or pounds on the meal, but the glass of wine might be a £5, and they make more money on the glass of wine. And I like watching Gordon, the chef.
Ramsay, yeah.
Gordon Ramsay, he's superb, right? And the thing he does when he goes into an organization, he simplifies things and puts in a process. And that gets me thinking as well, as if you're out for dinner with your wife and you order a well-done fillet steak, and your wife orders a Dover sole. The different processes involved in cooking those are so different. Yet you're expecting for both dishes to land at your table at exactly the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They do that in good restaurants. There is a process. No,
very, very interesting. And all these things that you don't even think about, but but of course critical to a business. And you mentioned startups. So you think that startups in particular are a real risk then if they don't have any of the processes or around sales and their management processes?
No, again, you know something, I wouldn't be able, I don't have the skills to be thinking about what does the world need that's not out there. I don't have that type of brain. So there's lots of very clever people than me who have the type of brain, and they form these startup organizations. But a lot of startups fail, even though the concept is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And the reason they fail is they don't spend enough time thinking about sales. Because sometimes it's like what I call, and I've worked with small businesses as well, where it's almost like an owner-driver business, and the owner does everything. And he's very good at plumbing or painting or plastering or whatever. But he just doesn't understand, well, how can I make sure this is a sustainable business? Generally, a lot of people go down the route, oh, get a website. Spend money on Google Ads. People will find you. Maybe not enough people will find you. Or maybe when you finish a job, when you get your first job and you finish the first bit of painting or plastering, how do you engage with that client? You know, do you keep data on your clients? Now, obviously with GDPR, you have to ask permission. I'm not assuming that everyone does that. But the amount of data that is missed and the amount of times an organization or a shop or a startup has a transactional sale without thinking about, well, what else could I sell this person? Or when else would this person be a repeat sort of customer? Or if it's not a repeat customer, how can I get this customer to become an evangelist for my business? How can I make this person think? If anyone I know wants a painting job done, I'm going to recommend Mary or John because they were superb. They did different things. So how do we do that? And also a really good business, say if the thing you're selling has a shelf life or a product cycle, well, when do you ring that person again who got a paint job from you 2 years ago? Or when do you write to them and say, are coming up to Christmas or coming up to communions? I don't know whether you've had any communions in your family, but with my family, I always found communions and confirmations were a great excuse to do the garden up or do the, a bit of paint here and there, right? So how can you engage with this demographic and know, yeah, these people might be interested? And the thing is, when you contact somebody either by phone or by letter and you grab their attention, you're much more likely to gain new business, because timing is everything in sales. And it's a little bit like if I stood on the top of, what's the biggest street in Belfast? Victoria Street, is it? Or,
yeah, Victoria, Victoria Street.
Yeah. If I stood on top of Victoria Street before the pandemic and I shook 365 people's hands and I said, happy birthday to all 365, the chances are one would say, how did you know? So timing is very important. And also in sales, you've got to also remember, you're going to have more no's than yes. And that's just life. And you've got to accept that, because I said earlier on, the customer doesn't owe you anything. But timing, if you ring enough people, you contact enough people, depending on what your product is. And again, I spoke earlier on about the bullseye customer. So if any startup is watching this, tell them to contact me. I'll have a free chat with them, no problem. The key for them is show me a list of your bullseye customers. And the thing about it as well, LinkedIn is a powerful tool. And connections can be made. And, it's not like the old days when you had to try and find out a lot about somebody and you couldn't because there was nothing out there. Now, if I'm thinking about Company X are my bullseye customer, and the chief technical officer of Company X is Ray. So I'm going to have a look at Ray's profile on LinkedIn and see what type of person he is, see where he worked. He might have worked in an organization that one of my customers works. But he could have worked in an organization where my father worked. And then you might send him an interesting, either physical or an email. And that's the thing about salespeople as well. Sometimes you'll say to salespeople, so how did you get on today? Oh, I'm really busy. I was doing loads of stuff. I sent out 200 emails. And, you know, is that effective? And, you know, Einstein once said, you know, doing the same thing, expecting different results is this absolute madness. And yet a lot of salespeople are trapped in that because they're not too sure, or maybe they've lost confidence. Because there's loads of stuff on LinkedIn, which I like, you know, it says never give up. And you know what I say? Actually, do give up. But change your strategy. If you're sending out 100 emails a day, every day, and it's not working, well, why would you keep doing it? So don't send out emails. Maybe find a different way of contacting people. I mean, there's some great products out there that will give you, as I said, accurate information on people, and that you can engage in a conversation that they may find interesting. Or you know what? Pick the phone up. Wow, imagine, pick the phone up. It's the best-selling tool out there, but a lot of people don't use it.
Amazing. No, incredible insight there again, and things I need to think of. And we're in a new normal now with what's happened with lovely COVID. Do you think things will change? Obviously for retail, there's going to be massive change, but do you think businesses will have to change how they approach sales and look at the processes?
Well, I definitely think, as I said earlier on, about the way we're communicating with our customers is moving from a face-to-face world to an over-the-phone world, or a Zoom call world, where body language is not going to be as relevant as it should be. So what we got to think about is not just what we say, we got to think about how are we saying this. And again, that's and I think in this new normal, if you like, the sales manager will be working remotely from a sales team. So he really got to hone his or hers coaching skills, because you know, a typical sales manager might be sitting in the same room as the salespeople and listening to what's being said. So now that luxury has been taken away. So that company that I'm doing a bit of work with at the moment is called Econic. They've got a great, again, if anyone wants to look at it, it's econic.com. They have a lot of big footprint in the USA in banking, but they're working now with lots of other organizations in Europe. But I think the sales process will have to be, if there is a sales process, the companies, by the way, that have sales processes will thrive. Absolutely. It will be business as usual, a tweak here and a tweak there. The companies that don't have sales processes will struggle. Because think about the individual who doesn't have a process working from his kitchen. How can he or she stay motivated? And if there's no culture of coaching in the organization. So I think that would be a big challenge. But the body language piece will be important. How can we ensure that our communication skills, our tone of voice is really reflecting of what we're saying to organizations. And also I think as well, the companies that will succeed more will be the people who pick the phone up, the people who do the background checks on their suspects, on their prospects, on their customers, using tools like LinkedIn and even Facebook, without stalking anybody, obviously. But you know, the salesperson of today, Ciaran, doesn't need to be extroverted. Need to be the exciting extrovert. The good salesperson actually can be the interested introvert. So tell me, Ciaran, about your business. Tell me what challenges you are facing. Tell me about a good day in your business. Tell me what a bad day looks like. How can you create more good days than bad days? You know, how do you engage with your customers? Tell me about your customers that you'd love to get on board. And tell me, how are you engaging with them? So there's some of the key, you know, the good salesperson is the sale, and I always say to this as well, the good salesperson listens 80% of the time, only talks 20%. Has the ability to ask open-ended, interesting questions. Get your client talking.
Great advice again. Amazing. And I think a lot of people watching this will have to have a look at what they're doing in sales and process. And I know I'm going to have to watch this back a few times now as well. So I guess there's always going to be things we can improve without a doubt. So again, no, thank you very much for that. If anyone's watching this and wants to get some help or guidance or touch base, what's the best way for them to get in contact?
Best way of contacting me probably is either through LinkedIn. I've got a lot of connections on LinkedIn, or email SalesSource2020@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to have a free conversation with anybody. I think that in this day and age, in every day and age, it's nice to be nice, and the amount of business that I get from recommendations is unbelievable. Because if you do a good job and you do what you say you're going to do, you're going to, you know, be kind. That's what I would say.
Yeah, amazing. No, Ray, thank you again. That was brilliant, really insightful, and plenty for everyone to think about. I'm like, oh my God, I have a lot to do. A lot to do. So no, thank you again, and really appreciate your time.
Yeah, great stuff. Great fun. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great week. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this chat with Ray. Gosh almighty, I've learned a lot there, and I'm going to have to go and sit and look at what we're doing. So be sure to connect with the link with Ray. We have a link on this video, and do say hello to him on social media. And as I say, if you enjoyed the video, do share it. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you.